Bad over there. Yeah, exactly. Put them all over there. Man, if only there were some more
That's
cookies.
a closed pack. Oh, don't get that near here.
Is he gonna come in and tell me, or? Yeah, can you? Okay, all right. Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. This is a special Board of Education meeting. Governor Pritzker continues a disaster declaration related to the COVID-19 pandemic for all Illinois counties. Currently, Phase 4 guidelines are in place, which limits the number of individuals in a space. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public who wish to offer in-person public comment are able to do so at this meeting. To adhere to Phase 4 guidelines, there will be a limited number of seats available in the meeting room. The board president will call the public comment speaker to the podium based on the order in which the speakers sign in. A sign-up sheet will be available at the entrance to the building until 6 p.m. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public will be allocated up to 3 minutes per speaker. The board president has set 30 minutes as the length of time for the public comment section of this meeting. Members of the public may stay in the meeting space if the limited number of seats remain available. The board meeting continues to be live streamed for viewing on the district's website. Written public comments can also be provided where the board will acknowledge the written comment, but they will not be read. So at this time, I'm calling the meeting to order, and I will call a roll call. Dr. Harrell?
Present.
Mrs. Steuven?
Present.
Mrs. Troutman?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mrs. Hostler?
Here.
And Mr. Kaczynski is absent. So we have 6 board members present, 1 absent, and at this time, if we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, there are no public comments here in the boardroom. No one has signed up. And Mrs. Troutman, if you could just let us know how many written comments we have.
We have 3 written comments.
Okay, so there are 3 written comments. They will be posted on the website. All right, so tonight's special board meeting is regarding this search for the superintendent. So we are going to get a presentation from School Exec Connect because they have completed an extensive amount of public and community engagement, and then we will discuss. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Shimp and Dr. Yankee. Thank you.
Yep, okay, there we go. It's wonderful to be here tonight with you to talk about the community engagement process and what we have done in the last several weeks, including 23 focus groups and about 13 individual interviews of different people. Sometimes we interviewed board members, we interviewed people who couldn't make another group and wanted to talk with us, but we have so much information. It was difficult to put together. This stack right here is about 105 pages of handwritten notes. That's from my notes from all of the focus groups and interviews. And because people had a lot to say, and it was very, very interesting. So what we're going to do tonight is to present a report that includes information from the focus groups and interviews, information from the survey. We had a wonderful response to the survey. And then we're going to put that together and talk to you about the new superintendent profile that we have created that we will use and hope that you will use to in the process of screening, selecting, interviewing the candidates for the next superintendent. So we, at the request of the board, this was part of the process that we described when you engaged us, that we conducted focus groups with a wide variety of stakeholders that included students, teachers, support staff, administrators, district administrators, principals, parents from every school. We had, I believe, 8 sessions with schools. There were some that were doubled up. We did staff after school and parents in the evening each time, and we had 3 community based, just kind of open to anyone. And we had as few as 1 and as many as 25 in those sessions. And even if it was 1 person, we talked with them. And then the survey had an extraordinary response with more than 2,400 people filling out the survey. The most that we've ever had in another district that was larger than this district was 1,200. So this more than doubled yeah. And it was wonderful. You know, really the questions are looking at those 4 things of the strengths of the district, the challenges in the district, the priorities for the next superintendent, and the qualities that we're looking for. And so we got a lot of information. And of course, we created the new superintendent profile. The profile report can be used to screen candidates. We use it as we're looking at the candidates, construct interview questions. It helps prospective candidates learn about the district as well. So it's for the district to look, you know, people that participated in these focus groups should be able to look at this report and say, I see some of the things I said reflected in this report. So that's the stakeholder perspective. So we had 209 different people attend focus groups, and that includes about 13 that were individual interviews. So that's 209 people altogether. The online questionnaire had 2,465 individual responses. That includes the Spanish survey that had 16 respondents. And when you see the results, you'll see that some people could mark more than 1 category. So if a teacher is also a parent, they might have marked both of those. So that number will add up to more than 2,465, but that is the number of people. That survey was open from February 3rd to 19th. I'd like to thank Bev for her wonderful promotion of that. I think that really helped. I could tell the days that she sent it out because we'd have a spike of hundreds of people that responded on that day. So it was.
I'd say, given the short period of time that the window that was open, it is phenomenal, the amount of response your community gave. Yeah. Great thanks to the community.
As we report responses, the percentages are rounded. And so sometimes you'll see that percentages look the same, but they're slightly different if they're listed in order. So our questions, as I just mentioned, were what are the district's greatest strengths, framed with why would a new superintendent want to come to this district? What are the greatest challenges? What does the superintendent need to know before he or she accepts this responsibility? What should the priorities be for the new superintendent? And what are the most important personal qualities, skills, and experiences that are important for the new superintendent to possess to be successful? So the focus groups, again, as I mentioned, 23 meetings and 13 interviews, 209 participants, 14 schools, district office, and again, parents, students, certified and support staff, the board, community leaders, and administrators, including principals. Principals were in a separate group from district administrators. Whoop, I think I went too fast here. What did I do here? Sorry about that.
Going the other way.
Am I going the wrong way? Here, let's see. You're getting a whole preview of the whole thing right here. Real quick. I'm at the end. All right, let's see. Let me do this. Sorry about that. So we are jumping into the district's strengths as identified in the focus groups. Let's see, I'll go back to this and try not to mess it up again. Tim, you want to go through the strengths?
Sure. So we were able to, out of the 23 groups, as you can see, Palmer's 205, the community, a great deal of pride and tradition. There's a lot of families who, even if they move away or the kids move away, they end up coming back and spending time and laying down roots here. Obviously, geographically, it's a great location with the different commuter systems, the airport, the shopping, the dining, a lot of traditional reputation. Families do come here for the school, even with some of the difficult, challenging year that we've had and 205 has had. People still take a great deal of pride and passion for your district. They're very, very happy to be representatives of your school district. The teachers are seen as very caring. The relationship aspect between kids and staff was something that came out over and over again. Your teachers really get to know the kids, that your administrators and the buildings really get to know the kids. There's a lot of excitement around the capital project and the referendum that was passed and the feeling of community support. I think that was pervasive too, that there's a sense that the community will do anything for the school district. That when there's a call for action, whether it's through the PTAs, whether it's through the referendum, whether it's for supporting music and athletics, it doesn't take much for people to step up and step forward. So there's excitement around what's the future of your facilities looking like with the money that was raised through the referendum. Very happy with technology and innovation. They believe that the district is heading in a very progressive way. There's certainly a great deal of resources available, both from a facility standpoint, but structurally from a technology standpoint. Your schools are safe. Kids feel safe. Parents feel that their kids are safe in the school when they send them off each day. And as a unit district, there's a great opportunity, and is seen as a strength by and large for curriculum alignment, for articulation, for the professional development and growth of your staff.
This was just kind of another way to look at the strengths, kind of thinking about academic achievement. It has District 205 has a reputation for strong academic achievement. It is a destination district for people who want to work here, really very often come here for their entire career or for the rest of their career. Diversity is something that really came through very strongly, that people value the diversity of the community. They feel like the diversity is maybe not understood or known as well outside the community. Teachers were very passionate about doing more for all students, recognizing the diversity within the student body and in the community, and hope that the superintendent will bring that value as well. The district enjoys support from the community. Engaged, passionate parents is a strength of the district, that people really care about what is happening in the schools. They want to support the schools. As one parent said to me, just tell us what to do and we will do it. If you have a problem to solve, we will get involved, and whether that's raising money or working as a volunteer or whatever it happens to be. Teachers feel that their innovations will be supported, that I was really struck by how many people said we have great resources, and that's a good indication when people feel that way, that they are, if they want to try something new, they're going to be supported, that there are adequate resources. District challenges, and the top one about the pandemic, that's obviously uppermost in people's minds right now. In fact, in some groups, it was hard to get people to think about something other than the pandemic and the effects of it. And there are concerns about student learning, about community harmony, about board operations, safety and health of students, staff, entire community. So this was very much present in people's minds, and people know that it's not going to go away. Obviously, things are going to get better. They just are, with vaccinations and and so forth, but they know that this will be a challenge for the new superintendent as well. An indication of the support of the community is in the capital project that was approved in a referendum, but the new superintendent will have to implement that plan. And while also wanting to maintain some current initiatives and keeping the community engaged in school issues. As I mentioned, diversity, equity, inclusion are strengths of the district. They're also a challenge in thinking of how we can meet the needs of all students, including students with special needs. Building trust and raising morale is a challenge for a new leader, especially after dealing with the pandemic for a year. And communication about decision making is a key area to address. This PowerPoint is kind of a shorter summary. There's more in the report, but that building trust, raising morale, communication, those were key words in every session that we had. The next superintendent is expected to maintain the district's great reputation and competitiveness, including academic achievement. And there's a desire to change what it feels like is a culture of negativity right now. And again, across the board, everybody felt that way.
From a priority standpoint, I think what you're going to see here is a blend of to accentuate and continue in the strengths, and how do we face some of the challenges. And this individual is going to be very, very busy based upon what your community is asking for. So I hope they understand that, and they will, but it's exciting. It's the focus on the kids that was pervasive, and it goes back to where have we come in the last year and prior to the pandemic, but certainly knowing that there's learning loss, knowing that there's SEL aspects that we're going to have to support students, and how do we transition kids back into that environment and continue on the directory that 205 has been headed. Working with the board on a clear vision. Is it a cohesive vision? Is it one that the superintendent and the board are united in? And then how do we communicate that out to our community and say, these are our goals, our action steps, our key performance indicators, and our timeline for completion. And that's something that people, they're asking for to be part of that process and to have a transparent conversation with the board and the superintendent. Obviously, the third board, the plan, making sure this individual, at least as they hopefully are approved in April, are part of the discussions and communication and planning prior to the fall beginning of the new school year. Getting time to listen and to know the district. There was a lot of, although we want the person to come in and do a lot of work and get things going, there's also the feeling that we want this individual to know who we are, what we stand for, what we believe in, where we've been, and where we want to head together. And that's going to take time. It's going to take time to get into the schools, be visible, listen to staff, understand perspectives, work with all of you. So it's going to be a juggling act to keep the momentum or start momentum going, but also realize they have to understand and know the feelings and ideas and thoughts of the community. And then building strong teams. Someone that can come in and look at our current talent levels district-wide, as well as in each of the schools, or at the district level, each of the schools, and then work with the staff and the principals to grow individuals.
So, and finally, we asked them to identify characteristic skills, and we also said experiences that the new superintendent should have in order to be successful here. And student-focused really came out clearly. You'll see it was also very clear in the survey, but definitely in the focus groups, to hire someone who has a clear, direct focus on students and making decisions based on what is best for students. People would like to see a proven leader with identifiable accomplishments, someone who can get things done, not just a nice resume, but real evidence of accomplishment. Hardworking, proactive, transparent, visionary, strategic. A lot of people mentioned the uniqueness of being a unit district, and it's important for the new superintendent to understand that. People didn't generally rule out that they had to be directly from another unit district, but certainly experience in or with a unit district seemed important to people, or understanding the multiple levels. You know, it's not just elementary, not just high school, that understanding how all the levels work together is extremely important, and how time and resources are allocated among people. Really felt strongly. It was interesting going by school because people talked about you know, their awareness of equitable allocation of resources among the schools and throughout the community. The superintendent should understand finance, business operations, capital projects, particularly since there will be a big one to manage, but also possess a deep knowledge of curriculum and instruction. Kind of combines several items here in this one. And a willingness to work closely with community leaders. We were able to talk to some community leaders, and they value their relationship with the school district and have a strong desire to work collaboratively with the superintendent, and feel like it's good for everyone and good for the community when that happens. Continuing with skills and characteristics.
Yes, this is someone who's multi-layered, that can laugh when they're around you and enjoy your company, is warm and approachable, and has the human element side of things, but also can be very obviously professional and businesslike, and make very hard decisions when they have to do that. You know, with the contract negotiations going, the community felt that someone with experience might be able to assist and move things forward in a productive and timely manner, and working closely with the association. Someone that's confident but humble, that is confident to make decisions, but also is willing to sit back and listen to perspective of the constituents. I'll wait for
Stop
you.
sharing for a minute, because I don't know where my PowerPoint went. All right. No, that's not it. Okay. All right, here we go. Yeah.
Someone that can troubleshoot technology on the fly.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I'm going back to the Zoom. All right.
Yep.
All right.
I think
How
it's-
can it recover? All right, where is
There you go.
okay.
We're good.
All right. All right, we ready for the survey? Or did we get through this one? No, I don't think we did. Okay.
You know, Linda talked about the diversity. So, you know, there was a desire possibly for someone that has experience in a district that has embraced diversity, that has worked on equity and diversity issues, that could bring some experience to Elmhurst and work with the community to talk and work through programming and instructional practices and those things that support that. Communication skills was, I think you'll see on the survey, as well as in all the stakeholder groups, transparent communication, someone that's verbally articulate, can write well. The things that are sent out are trustworthy. The things that they seem genuine. They come from a place of both the head and the heart. So I think that was over and over and over again. The communication aspect of this individual needs to be a paramount skill and characteristics. And then someone that just, as I said, is very present. They want to be in the community. They want to be at events, both inside the district, but as and outside organizations, and connect with your different outside groups and be visible at community events.
Okay, continuing with the community survey, we'll do a summary of the community survey. This is a breakdown of who responded. Those numbers, parents, there were 1,345 parents who responded. And students were 33%, over 800 students responded, including 9 who answered in Spanish on the Spanish survey. There were 297 teachers or licensed staff, that would include social workers, counselors, et cetera. Then community members, 172, support staff 98, administrators 53, and other 55. So the educational strengths, this is one where they had a forced choice. If you filled out the survey, you would have seen that there were a number of items listed and people had to select 5 for this item. And so this is all together. I also disaggregated the survey and looked at responses separately for parents, teachers, and students, since those were the 3 biggest groups. And in your report, you'll see I showed some of those results with how they differ. Parents being such a large group, they tended to dominate the response of everyone altogether. So looking at them separately kind of gives you a little bit better idea of what teachers are thinking and students in particular. So the top response of the strengths was overall student achievement. 42%, notice it adds up to a lot more than 100, of course, because people had 5 choices. So 42% of respondents chose that as one of their 5 responses. And overall student achievement, use of technology for learning, focus on the development of student skills in communication, creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, and technology. And safe student and staff learning environment. That's a really nice positive thing that came out in the focus groups and on the survey, that students and staff feel safe in all the schools, everywhere. It's just a given. And it was very interesting talking to the students about that. They pointed that out in person when we talked with them. Engaged and supportive parents and community certainly was a top response. And student readiness for the next level of education. Just for your information, the number 1 response from parents was the strength of engaged and supportive parents and community. The number 1 response for students was use of technology for learning, which I guess isn't surprising given right now their engagement with technology. And then their second response was safe student and staff learning environment. And the licensed staff, their top response was overall student achievement. And their second one, focus on development of those 21st century learning skills. And third was use of technology. And fourth was safe student environment. Okay, and then for the educational challenges, again, the respondents were asked to select 5. So these are the areas that need work, that are challenges that the new superintendent will need to cope with. And then the first one with 36%. Notice the numbers are a little lower here. There was more of a scattering of responses. So you see how many close together in their percentages. A clearly articulated vision for the direction was the top challenge. Identified instructional methods that engage all students. And that was number 1 for the students. 36% of students had picked that. The vision, 45% of parents selected that as a challenge. So that was the top response from parents. And then strong communication with parents in the community. Again, this is a challenge. Then next is the environment that attracts and retains highly effective personnel. Then knowledgeable and innovative district and school leaders, and challenging state-of-the-art curriculum. So again, teachers, number 1 response, 46% of teachers, their top challenge was understanding and supporting diversity and equity. And 3 of their top answers had to do with meeting the needs of economically disadvantaged students, closing achievement gaps among student groups. So teachers were very student-focused and very focused on the diversity of our student body.
Not surprising with this, the kids really, their top 5 was, communication wasn't their top 5 or 6.
Right.
But when you talked about, you know, the unique needs and gifts of students and nurturing those,
Yeah.
that was in the students, but not in the adults. You know, the kids are very insightful. They want to be prepared for the next level. They want a state-of-the-art curriculum. They want to be nurtured based upon their own uniqueness. So it goes to some of those initiatives that this board in your community is embracing with blended learning and your dual language program, thinking about the uniqueness of kids and the programs that you're putting in place. The kids they gravitate towards that. They like the high school kids talked about, in the middle school, talked about all the opportunities they have at the secondary level. And that's just a fantastic perspective that kids are bringing, and it's showing that we're unique. We all have different needs and different dreams and hopes, and the district is providing us avenues to get there. So it complements what they said in our focus groups on the survey, which is great.
So the organizational and managerial strengths, you see there's a drop off. In fact, on your report, I only included the first 4 because there's such a drop off after that. Well, really, after the first 3, there is a drop off. And there was a lot of congruity between the students, parents, and teachers on this response. So I didn't break out the subgroups in this because they were pretty much in agreement. They might have been flipped 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, but they had those top 3 of the clean, well-maintained schools and grounds, school safety, and up-to-date technology. Class size is interesting because it comes out under strength and challenge. So I guess it depends on your perspective, but here 27% identified it as a strength. Yeah. And then there was a tie with relationships with other units of government and image reputation. That exact same number of people answered, chose that one, in modern school facilities.
And then the challenges, organizationally, again, figuring out ways in which we can get feedback, communicate, and have the two-way interaction, not just the district or school sending information out with one directional communication. The long-range planning that we talked about earlier with the superintendent and the board governance leading that charge and bringing the community along. 30% talked about those 2 challenges. Again, you see the class size and the board governance, and then the image and modern school facilities, much like the previous slide. They responded the same percentage. And then crisis management. Just continually, as we evolve as a society, as kids continue to go through our schools, do we know what to do in the event of a crisis? Do our kids know? Do our parents know? And is that well communicated and documented?
So then looking at the surveys and the priorities for the new superintendent, again, this slide is presenting everyone all together. Selecting and retaining excellent teachers and leaders was the top response, although it's close. The second one, improved academic achievement for all students, was also a top priority. They're really very close. The first 3, 4 are 5 actually, are very close. With the students' well-being, emotionally safe and confident, strong relationship with staff and community members, development of 21st century skills. So these are the priorities. They may have been listed already in strengths or in challenges, but these are what people identified as priorities. Parents' number 1 response was selecting and retaining excellent teachers and leaders, and that probably pushed that to number 1 because so many, 43% of parents identified that. Students' number 1 priority was student well-being, emotionally safe and confident. And their second one was improved academic achievement for all students. Teachers first, with 62% responding, was strong relationship with staff and community members. So teachers really are focusing on that need for the superintendent to have developed those strong relationships. And their second one was development of a culture of collaboration among all stakeholders. So that is important to teachers.
Linda, can I just, one quick, how many students were there in the survey? I can't remember.
800, about 800.
800 students
805.
are involved in this. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, compared to others,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and right now, like the message I'm hearing is what these students are saying, because it's such a strong, and it's not, 10% say this, 10%, I mean, there's overwhelming, like 50% say this, and eight,
Yeah.
it's one thing if there's 25 kids,
Yeah, right.
but when there's 800,
Yeah,
that's a
Yeah.
strong message that needs
Yeah.
to be listened to.
yeah, yep, yep. Okay. So going to the characteristics, Tim, you want to?
Yeah, so these, again, you're going to see themes that we've talked about. And the subgroups, all of them talked about making decisions based upon what is best for students. So that 56% was the top choice for, or at least one of the top two for all the different subgroups. A team builder, someone that can articulate the vision, obviously the teaching and learning aspect of things, and knowledge and what good instruction looks like, what good pedagogy looks like. Transparency and communication go hand in hand, but when you look at the 34% transparent in decision-making, I think there was commentary in the focus groups, and you see it here about the understanding the why behind the things that we're doing, and that's where the transparency piece comes up. That we're okay with it sometimes, we're okay if we're going a different direction, just tell us why and help us understand the meaning behind it. And that goes to the working collaboratively, the 32% of the decision-making. The flexibility, the kids, almost 50% talked about as open-minded and flexible. So you see 30% of all groups, but the kids, it was very a high percentage. And then the communication skills came out again, the people skills, that warmth piece, the personal touch of the role, and then being able to maintain fiscal responsibility as a leader for the district.
I thought this was particularly interesting that the item makes decisions based on what is best for students. It was number 1 for parents, number 1 for students, and number 2 for teachers, after works collaboratively and includes others in decision making. So that really came through, and you see 56 compared, the second place one is 43. So that was very, very strong. And so a superintendent who can live that ideal of making decisions based on what's best for students will be well suited here. There was a question at the end, an open-ended question. What else would you like to tell the board? About 1,200 people responded to that, and I read through them all, but there was a lot of this kind of repetition of what was in both the focus groups and in the survey, but did try to reflect that in our summaries. So the new superintendent profile is the last page of the 10-page report that you have in front of you. So this is kind of a, what I'm projecting is a little bit a shortened version of that. But I had to use 10-point font to get it on one page, but it is on one page. This creates a picture of what we feel from listening to people for a couple of weeks very closely in a lot of different sessions, that this is what the community would like to see in the next superintendent. So certainly that makes decisions based on what is best for students, and keeping students at the center of decision-making is critical. Communicating a clear vision, that came out over and over. What is the vision for our district? And that vision should be clear, consistent, and inspiring to other people. And that the superintendent can establish high expectations for all students and staff to live up to that vision. It also was very clear people want to see a plan for what's going to happen next year with the pandemic. Now, people recognize things change, and it's very difficult right now to say exactly what next year is going to look like. But they hope that the new superintendent will come in and work very clearly on a plan for next year. And that it's communicated clearly to everyone. There's a little bit more written on this page than we have up there. Strong interpersonal skills and positive relationship building, that is critical for the next superintendent. And then kind of going with that, effective communication, listening closely, a good speaker. That was mentioned a lot. Someone who is a good public speaker and writes well with a high degree of skill.
With the plan, I think a word that kept coming back to from each of the groups was healing.
Yeah.
They talk about You know, not only a plan for getting kids in classes and teachers and get school up and running, but a plan that we're going to bring the community back together and we're going to heal anything that needs to be mended from this year, from different stakeholder groups. So it's both the operational plan, but also the human plan. Continuing on, is able to communicate decisions that are clear, given the why, as I talked about earlier, and understanding perspective of the different stakeholder groups that make up your district. Working all with you in a professional and collaborative way, both behind the scenes, but also at the board table and in front of the public, and making sure that the decisions that the superintendent and the board are making jointly are aligned with that vision that Linda talked about in the previous piece of the profile, but that they're persistent, they're passionate, and that they're keeping the community involved along the way. Building effective teams, being able to evaluate talent, making sure that the teams that we have in place are working effectively. Do we have the right people in place, and we have the right people doing the right roles? And then basically giving people the ability to do their jobs, support where they need support, provide growth where they need to provide growth in, and then hold people accountable to make sure that the results that we're getting are the intended results that we were striving for. Strong relationships, both locally, but across the state, possibly nationally, but certainly working with our local unions, working with the different community organizations, all striving for the same outcome with the district goals. Understanding what a unit district, I guess the pros and the cons of a unit district, some of the intricacies that happen in a unit district that may not happen elsewhere, but taking advantage of those opportunities at the pre-K 12 level. And then understanding of the equity and diversity piece that we talked about earlier in developing the whole child.
The new superintendent also should be a person who promotes excellence in the quality of the teaching staff, placing a priority on hiring a diverse and highly skilled corps of teachers and providing development opportunities for them. A lot of people mentioned that the superintendent should have spent significant time being a teacher, so that is included here. I don't always hear that, but I heard that over and over. We both really heard that and a building level leader. We asked most groups about superintendent experience, and a number of people said, yes, it needs to be someone who's an experienced superintendent, but a lot of people said not necessarily. It isn't a hard and fast requirement, but someone who has extensive leadership, proven successful leadership experience at the district level as well as at the building level. Yeah, it was interesting. And now, again, there were some people who very strongly said, this is not a place for a rookie. You know, we need someone with experience. But there were a lot of people, they didn't want to commit to it has to be a former or current superintendent. But, you know, the extensive leadership in a big district or this kind of district, this kind of community, this kind of constituency, and that was more important than actual experience as a superintendent to some people. Valuing the unique needs of every student and allocates resources. Again, that idea of equitable distribution of resources was brought up a lot, and values supports students in their academic, personal, and social emotional growth, and those thinking skills, creativity, critical thinking, problem solving. A number of people mentioned humility, but also confidence that it's someone who, I think the description often was, they are confident, can make a decision and stay with it and explain it, and but also that they have enough humility to listen and shift if necessary, but hopefully that would happen before the decision is made, not after. So that was interesting. Acts decisively, but listens carefully before making a decision is another way to say that.
and then someone who understands the community. And if they don't understand it now, certainly they're going to spend time listening, learning, and advocating on behalf of the different stakeholder groups that make up the community, and the kids, obviously, that they serve. And then displays of knowledge and skill in the finances of the district. We talked about, you have very good resources. That's been a strength, that's seen as a strength in your district. Someone that can continue on that and put in programs for kids and for staff that are going to take you to whatever those goal areas are of your strategic plan. And that's going to be able to, when HR issues come up or special ed issues come up, that has some working knowledge of the legal aspect of education, which is important.
That is the end of our presentation, and we would love to hear your questions or comments. Let me make sure next steps we have outlined as well that we will begin our applications close this coming weekend, and we will begin interviewing the following week. We are scheduled to present a slate to you on March 15th. You are scheduled to conduct your first interviews March 18th and 20th. And then after the 20th, you will narrow it down to, we hope, 3 finalists that will be interviewed during the day and during the day by stakeholder groups, during the evening by you, March 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And then after that, the board will make the final selection of a candidate. We'll finish reference checking, negotiating the contract, and making an announcement right after spring break. Let's see. And then just whether you have questions, I don't know. Anything else, or?
Well, I just wanted to first thank you. I mean, that was an extensive amount of community engagement in a tight
Yeah.
time frame. So I really appreciate, when I saw the schedule, and I know you guys were busy a lot. So thank you for that. And I think, I guess, it's nice to see that there's not really a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
As far as, I think it's, it feels like, those are things that we've heard, so it's confirmed. What I really appreciate is so many students participated. I have to be honest, it surprises me that many participated, but I think it's a great, I like hearing that voice. So I'm really happy that was a part of it and that they actually participated. So I don't really have questions. I mean, it feels very extensive. I want to just say thank you. And then I think probably, some other people might have a couple questions. So Karen.
Just to piggyback on specifically Kara's last point about the student groupings, and I really appreciate that you looked at the volume of the different groups to see if they were heavily weighted, and then you broke it down to let us know that significance. So if I recall correctly, you were looking for input from students from middle school and high school.
Our focus groups, yes, I wouldn't expect students younger than 6th grade to answer.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was just wondered if you looked at the groups in middle school, high school, and see if, there's different weighting there. Just curious.
We had a separate focus group for those age groups, but this survey doesn't differentiate on age, so I don't know of those. I would guess that they're mostly high school, but I don't know that for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. So just take it as
I
common
know that
themes from both.
Dr. Bagdasarian sent out an email to students. I don't know if that happened in the middle schools, but I suspect it was mostly high school. But I thought the responses were right on target. They really identified things that are of interest to them and meaningful to them, and I thought they were very good.
Agreed. I just thought if you were to dissect that, if there was some insight, that's helpful as well. So
unfortunately, we don't have that information.
that's okay. Yeah, we'll assume it's from everyone.
I too want to thank you on this information, and I also want to thank the community for stepping up and really taking the time to fill this out. And the amount of people that responded is outstanding. So special thanks, obviously, to you and to our community. I wondered if you could, we spent a lot of time talking about the survey. Could you talk a little bit more about the focus groups and kind of what was said, communicated? Just give us a little bit more of a perspective on the focus groups, please.
Sure. I felt, so the focus groups were very interesting, and as I mentioned, they ranged in size from 1 to 25, and 10 to 15 was typical, was average. We had our first and our last session were the biggest ones at 23 and 25. And parents were, it was also interesting that a couple of sessions had, I kind of got a kick at the beginning out of the fact that everybody knows Zoom etiquette now, and I actually should probably get out of this here, but they know to mute and know that they don't have to have their camera on, and we encourage people to use their camera. But it was interesting, there were a number of people who kind of listened and were there the whole time but didn't talk, and we got quite a few emails after the fact saying, this is what I thought, or and it was often about a specific issue or just in general some responses to some of the prompts. So that was interesting. That was with parents. With the teachers were, I would say, the most positive group, the most hopeful, and really evidenced a lot of caring for the students. Very focused on their school and their students, and were really quite positive. So I think, I don't know, to address your question specifically, I think with parents, school, opening of school is on their minds, but it was clear in these groups that not everyone agrees. Not everyone feels everything should be open right now. Not everyone thinks they shouldn't be open. But there was a diversity of viewpoints in all of the groups. I think everyone wants to be back in school. Of course, there are a lot of questions to consider before getting there. The parents are very proud of living here. That there are so many people that, in fact, there were at least 3 teachers that participated that were students at York High School when I was here that are now back here teaching in the district and found their way to a focus group. And I think it was more like half a dozen.
We had a call where there was 5 or 6 on the call.
Yeah.
Out of the 8 they all went to school here.
Yeah.
They were so proud of it.
Yeah, it was really fun. But that's kind of the feeling people have. They love this community, and they want things to be better, and they want, the teachers are very committed to being here and the best interest of their students. Parents, again, parents have a diversity of viewpoints, but they also are, as I mentioned earlier, very willing to help, to participate, to fundraise, to volunteer, and so that came through very clearly too.
There's some desires to get, you've had some kids and families who have left
Yeah.
to go private this year. And I think it's on people's mind of how do we instill trust and to get those people back. So I think I think there's, from a staff perspective, I think making sure that the good staff that you have that want to be here stay here, and that you're not losing them to other suburban surrounding districts. We had a couple questions, more so maybe from parents, just wondering, do high school districts, are we losing people because they pay more than unit districts? So that came up a little bit over and over, from whether it's coaches or teachers or whatever that is. So I think that's something that to be mindful of. And staff express they want to be involved in some of the conversations around the facilities. We have a lot of projects coming up. They want their voice to be heard. They're in the buildings every day. So they want to make sure that someone's listening to their input to say, that sounds great, and that's a great idea from our architect, but are they actually doing the work in the classroom or in the office or in the library or wherever that is? So,
I think another kind of interesting thing to me is that principals feel a little bit like a stepchild, and without a clear way to communicate with district office. And that is also believed to be the case by teachers and parents, that there is a perception that the principals are not part of decision-making. And that is something that everyone thinks would be beneficial if they could find a way to do that. So I think that was an interesting outcome that's kind of unusual.
To clarify on that point, is it the principals that don't have a clear understanding, or the community doesn't have a clear understanding the principals are not collaborating?
It's not that they're not collaborating, it's that there isn't an opportunity for them to
So
collaborate.
that's what I'm saying. So is it the community's perception, or is that how principals feel?
That's how principals feel. And some community members have kind of picked up on that. And so, and it's not collaboration, it's just it's a big district with 14 principals, and, just a meeting with all of them is very difficult. It's hard for them to leave their buildings. It's hard, so finding a way for a superintendent to build them as a team, I think, would be something really a good goal for a new superintendent to think about ways. The principals are true middle management. They're at the building level, reporting to a central office, and they kind of hear both sides. And so they have a lot of insights into what's going on in a district and how parents are feeling, how students are feeling, what's people are afraid of, what they're worried about. And so how to capitalize on that knowledge that they have, I think would be very good. And so I think, it's interesting to me to think about the uniqueness of a unit district and how you build those teams across a large district. Elmhurst feels like a small town. This is another thing that came through. It feels like a small town, but it's not a small town. It's very, the school district is very complex. And so think about those groups of principal as one example, but central office staff and elementary teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers, what are their different needs? And so the next superintendent, any superintendent here needs to understand all those different constituencies and how they can work together and how they can capitalize on their on what they have to contribute, I think. So.
I think internally there's a sense that the communication, many times the internal employees are receiving it consistently at the same time as the community. And I think they would love to see that change where, again, the perception, whether it's such a reality that, the staff has more of an idea of what's coming prior to maybe reading about it when it goes home to parents, or, again, whether that's reality or perception, it was a kind of a common theme that came through.
Did you sense that was more a result of like the pandemic,
So that was a
You
question
know, like
we asked
just,
a lot.
yeah.
Did that happen before the pandemic, or is it since the pandemic? And there's a feeling to me that communication has and the clarity of how decisions are made, the transparency, so to speak, of how is input gathered, how are decisions made, how are those decisions communicated and explained, where was input gathered. I think that was an issue before the pandemic, but has been magnified by the pandemic. That I think we heard from a lot of people of all different constituencies. Students aren't so much aware of those kinds of issues, but parents and teachers, community members are, and administrators. So a lot of parents said, just tell us why and explain. Now, I know that doesn't always work, but there is a feeling that they don't know the why. That's what people are perceiving right now, and I think that needs to be addressed. And so that having a good system for, again, how those decisions are made, how they're communicated, how they're explained, and then that flexibility without, obviously you need to make a good decision in the first place, and that comes from getting adequate input, exploring all the options, really listening, being humble enough to listen to a lot of voices, and then making a decision. But I think people know that this is a unique and very difficult time in leadership in school districts, and but I think communication would be, you know, a better, more effective communication will be helpful. Did that answer your,
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
okay?
I also want to say thank you, and I just wanted to tell you that I've heard really good feedback about the community engagement,
good.
and that people really felt heard, and
Good.
that they felt able to share. And I think it's quite obvious from the feedback that you got that people were willing to share and felt comfortable, because it's so specific and really got down into a lot of good topics and information that we can use. So thank you for that, and
Thank you.
it's
Thank
well
you.
received.
We had a lot of nice comments, and I got kind of amused at the beginning. Someone said, "Is it confidential?" I said, "Yes, it's confidential." And she said, "But there's 15 people listening." I said, "Yes, but we won't quote you." That was what I meant. In that sense, it's confidential.
And this will be a great resource for the next superintendent to be able to pick up, and as they do their listening tours, as they get to know the public, to ask more clarifying and deeper questions on all these topics. I mean, what a great.
I actually
Yeah.
would recommend that the new superintendent do what we did,
Yes.
and meet with these same groups, do the same level of engagement to start with, and that person will learn a lot. You know, summer is a good time to do that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource, yeah.
Oops. I think it's actually a great resource for us too, you know, because it also, you know, it just tells you a lot. It's an extensive community engagement piece that
Yeah.
got done in what, a month? So, well, that's really, really good, really helpful.
Good.
All right. Anybody else? Jim?
Something I don't say very often, but this is an excellent report. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep page number 10 right with me as we interview superintendent candidates. And something I say often is, you know, you can move to Elmhurst, but you really can never leave.
Yeah.
You know, my only question is, and I heard also excellent feedback during the process. But how many of these people do you have for us that has everything on page 10?
Superhero?
Super, yeah, perfect.
I would say we probably have 30, 35 applicants as
Right
of
now,
today.
and a lot will come in this week. I suspect we'll get another dozen
And
this week.
I've talked to a few more that, as of yesterday.
Yeah, me too. I talked to 2 people yesterday. Yeah.
No, that's great. It sounds like a deep pool. That's fantastic.
Yep. Well,
You know,
we'll find out.
it came out, and we talked about a destination district. You have a special place here.
Yeah.
And that's why all this that's why your community is involved.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows it's a special place. You do, your parents, your kids, your staff. I mean, it's an attractive district. You got a lot of neat things going on here. And it's a special community. So you're gonna get a lot of
That's
attention.
fantastic.
So, right.
Okay. Well, if anyone has any comments, or if you would, I know you just got this tonight, because literally I was still even interviewing people yesterday, and then to go through everything took a long time, and Tim did a lot and was very helpful, put the PowerPoint together. If you have any suggestions for this, the profile in particular, just send me an email or give me a call. And I'm going to wait a day or two to see if you have anything you'd like to add to it or emphasize or whatever. I want it to be a really good reflection of and that we have a full understanding of what we're looking for in the next superintendent. And this, you know, it's not a job description, but it is a good outline of what we're looking for in the next superintendent to fit the times right now and what we need. So if you have any suggestions, but we don't normally ask the boards to vote on this, but just a consensus that this does represent what you see as a reflection of how the community feels right now and what.
Yeah, that's excellent. And then will this PowerPoint be, can we load it
Yes.
into board docs?
Yes, yes,
or,
I will send everything to Kathy, the
Okay,
report
perfect.
and the,
Perfect.
I'm gonna wait a day or so to.
For the report.
To see if anybody has any
Yep.
responses, but I'll get it to her, or I could send it to her. If you feel it's urgent to get there tonight, I can send it to her and then I can,
Maybe just a PowerPoint and then
okay,
you can
okay.
load up the detailed report
okay, great.
in a couple days, but at least the PowerPoint will be there
Okay.
for people to go along with the presentation. But
Right.
and then we already have all our dates scheduled and everything, and I've
Yes,
talked to Kathy
yes.
about logistics.
That's been very
and we've
helpful.
worked- Yeah.
So another thing I didn't mention about the focus groups, it was a good opportunity to tell people what's going on. You know, they were every group had questions about the process and the timing and, you know, everything. So that was, and they seemed satisfied when we described the process and the rationale for every step that we're taking. And so that was a good way to get. So the focus group is mostly for us to gather information, but it's also a way to disseminate information.
Excellent. Yeah,
And
that's fantastic.
people are
That's fantastic.
appreciative.
Yeah.
Can I give you one little bit of feedback? On page 10, the summary, I don't see the same emphasis on a track record of improving student achievement
Okay,
as I see in the body of your report.
okay. Okay, I'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So we'll be in touch before the next time we
Yes,
meet,
March
which is
15th
not
is
very
the next
far
time.
away.
No, it's not. It's
It's right around the corner.
or 2.5 weeks. Yes, yes.
So thank you so much and really appreciate that the community just, you know, felt so safe and, you know,
Good,
comfortable
yeah.
talking to you. That was really important.
It was,
I know
it
to
was
us, so.
very interesting, very informative,
It was enjoyable.
very
Yeah, it's okay.
enjoyable.
Good. Okay. So that's all for you guys. And then we are actually going to go into closed session for 2 items listed on the agenda. So if I could have a motion for that.
I move that the Board of Education enter into closed session for the purposes of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and B, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Second?
Okay, motion by Karen, second by Courtney. I will call the vote. Karen,
Yes.
Courtney,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Jim, Margaret,
Yes.
Gara, yes. 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Motion passes. The board will move to closed session. We will have no action after closed session. We will just come out to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great seeing you.
Good to see you. See you in a couple of weeks. Yeah, yes, we will. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yes, we are, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, by Zoom anyway, yeah. Oh, yeah, thanks. I'll put him in the bowl.